Welcome to Direct Approach, a bi-weekly podcast hosted by Wayne Moorehead, filled with timely insights, fresh perspectives, and actionable takeaways from your direct selling executive peers to help fuel the growth and evolution of your business. On this episode, Wayne is joined by fellow industry experts Heather Chastain, Duncan, and Blake Mallen. Together, they share exclusive insights from the recent DSU Fall Event and offer valuable perspectives on industry trends and innovative strategies. Here, they take a deep dive into the shifting dynamics in the direct selling sector and importance of staying informed on industry developments. With diverse experiences and expertise, they provide unique insights on direct selling's battle with affiliate marketing, compensation plan changes, the transformative power of AI in direct selling, and more. But before we begin, we'd like to thank this episode's sponsor, iPayout. Does your growing direct sales organization need a more powerful payments platform? iPayout is your ultimate partner, offering tailored solutions for seamless global payouts and efficient management. With support for over 180 currencies and an all-encompassing global tax suite, iPayout ensures transparency and control on a single, robust platform. Streamline your payouts by offering more options to your sellers, empowering your business to thrive on a global stage. Choose iPayout, where innovation meets efficiency. Now let's welcome your host, Wayne Moorehead, and his guests, fellow industry experts Heather Chastain, Duncan, and Blake Mallen.
Hello and welcome to another episode of DSN's Direct Approach podcast. I'm your host, Wayne Moorehead, and today we're going to discuss some of the highlights, insights, and key takeaways from last week's incredible DSU event. I'm very excited and fortunate to be joined by three of the brightest minds in direct selling, each of whom I've had the chance to work with, become friends with, and learn a lot from over the years. So I'm excited to welcome back Heather Chastain, founder and CEO of Bridgehead Collective, Blake Mallen, host of the Shift podcast and president of Prove It, and Duncan, managing principal at Strategic Choice Partners. All, thank you so much for being back on Direct Approach.
Great to be here. Good to see everybody.
Thank you. Yeah, I was kind of waiting for a comment. I thought that just fell flat there, but yeah, I'm glad you're excited to be here.
That was great respect for one another. We were all waiting for the other one to go first.
Yeah, that's
true. I'm just excited to be invited on this conversation with y'all. So this is going to be fun. This is a first.
Yeah, super excited. Well, as I mentioned, we're coming off of an incredible DSU where there were more than 50 speakers, more than 400 attendees. I thought the best content of any DSU. I know I say that kind of every time, but I think the content just keeps getting better and better. More than 400 attendees, by far the largest gathering of direct selling execs and members of the channel. And what I always love about DSU, I'm so glad it's on kind of this twice a year cycle, is because I know for me and all of us, we get really heads down focused on our individual businesses, and DSU gives us that opportunity to kind of take a bit of a step back, lift our heads up and look around and gain new perspectives and really get a sense for what's going on, what's working, what's not. And that was certainly true for this event for me. So I'm excited to get your thoughts on what you saw, some of the key trends and takeaways from this event. But first, I'd love to kind of start off on getting the overall vibe and segment. That is kind of the initial litmus test right as you walk in. Like, how are people feeling? What's the vibe? What's the energy here? And again, it felt really exciting, really positive. I know so many people were there to learn. And another thing that I loved is there seems to be so many companies now innovating, trying new things. They're trying to evolve. I know, a couple of years ago, I think all of us were kind of standing there going, all right, what's going on? The landscape shifting. Which way should we be running? What's everyone else doing? But I feel like people have kind of picked directions and they're trying things. And if those aren't working, shifting. But what were some of your initial thoughts? Heather, I'll start with you.
Yeah, thank you. I do agree. It's such a great opportunity to take your head up from the day to day. And I think people come in with that energy, and that then leads to more energy in the room, right? People are there to learn. And I just compliment Stuart and the whole DSU team, everybody that worked so hard to put that content together. I thought it was incredibly actionable this time, right? So people are there sort of taking notes, trying to do takeaways. The biggest thing I saw, to be honest, is a little bit of a shift in mindset around instead of coming to look for the one thing or focus on, hey, I'm looking for what to do on comp, or I'm looking for what to do on affiliate, or I'm looking for what to do on this. Really and this was in the messaging as well, really people are looking and recognizing it has to be a holistic approach. We have to look at the entire environment in which we are doing business. And the changes and tweaks are going to have to be really fully integrated across function, across discipline, and across channel. And I think that's really where I saw people's minds start to go. And that then brings a whole new round of optimism and sort of figuring that piece out.
Yeah, I think that's a really great point. I think I've experienced that as well, where it was, hey, I'm going to come learn about affiliate and how do I add that into my program? I know we're going to talk about that in a few minutes, but there is so much changing and evolving. Heather, you've done incredible research on whether it's generational, whether it's social, whether it's technological, and it does have to be kind of that full 360 approach. Brett, what were some of your initial impressions and feelings of the vibe there?
Yeah, I think I probably sum mine up with what Stuart shared in his opening presentation, where he kind of had that back of the napkin poll that he sent out to over 80 companies, and he shared what 48% were, I want to make sure I get this right, down year over year, 42% were up year over year, and 10% were basically flat. And those were all product companies. And I actually, based off where we came from last year, I was pleasantly surprised by that. I was expecting it to be actually a little bit worse than that. And I think a lot of people kind of felt that way too. And so for those companies who feel like they're down, I think they looked at it and said, okay, maybe there's something we can actually do about this versus, oh, the whole thing's screwed up, because obviously some other people are succeeding. And so I took that as optimistic. I took that as motivational. And I definitely heard people talk about, they took on the mindset of, okay, there's something I can do here that I'm not doing if I don't like what I'm seeing, versus all hope is lost.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to circle back in a second on kind of the split or the mixed results between product versus service driven. But Blake, I'd love to get your thoughts too.
Yeah, Wayne, I always leave DSU on a personal level feeling inspired, recharged. This one particular, I left with a list of actions that I know I want to take on behalf of Prove It and myself. And a little bit reflective. I was actually asking Stuart, because I'm really bad at like time and dates and years. They all just blur together. I'm like, how long have I been in these events? and I think it's coming up on like 20 years, right? I've been attending what DSU puts on, bringing the channel together. So I've literally like grown up in that circle, from the young founder to where it is today. And I always get a lot out of just bringing everybody together, the community. I mean, where else can an entire distribution channel all sit in one room with the influencers, right? Both the C-suite, the CEOs, the big people that can make real radical change amongst communities in one room, actually sharing candidly what we're going through. Like, I think it's a unique space. I think it always is. And I guess to answer your question directly, this specific event I felt was a level of candor and just transparency that, don't misunderstand me, it's always there, but like it was deep. I mean, we were just talking about what we're navigating, what's around the corner, what we're in the middle of, what's the solution, who's doing what's working, what's not, at just like a real level, at a deeper level than maybe I've experienced or felt before. So that was me leaving recharged, always inspired, but really with a heightened awareness on just the level of transparency that DSN's able to extract, right, from all of the companies and brands across the channel. It's awesome.
Yeah, I was blown away by that level of candor as well. I mean, we had, CEOs of some of the biggest companies saying, hey, we tried X, Y, and Z, and we spent the last 12 months really pushing it. It didn't work. So we're going to shift. And where before, I think we were always trying to kind of put our best foot forward. But now, I think people are just being really real. And we know that that's the best approach to learn quickly. So I want to circle back, Brett, on what you talked about the difference that's happening right now. I think that was one of the big surprises for me, as Stuart kicked off with great, insights and information and research from the top companies of the channel. And one of those that stood out was the performance difference between service and product-driven companies. What is going on where the services are really kind of all of them are growing? And again, right now, some of the product-driven are getting some mixed results.
Yeah, I don't know the exact answer to that, but I think what I learned at DSU was, especially as part of the services session, hearing from some of these founders of those companies, and they are thinking fresh. Like they are thinking it's a distribution channel. And I know that sounds like sacrilege a lot of times, based on where we come from. But when you think of it in those ways, it gives you freedom to actually get really creative on how you use it, which actually strengthens the opportunity for the people that get involved. And I think one after the other, every one of them are thinking in those terms. They aren't bound by a lot of the things that we, traditionally have felt bound by. And so they're really innovating on how to use this as a distribution method, and also how to get creative and how you reward people for doing it. And I feel like they're maybe more in touch with how people want to be rewarded, maybe than some of us are on the product side, or maybe we just got a little complacent there.
Yeah, interesting. Any thoughts, Heather?
Yeah, Brett, that is a really, really interesting way to think about it. And I had a little bit of the same takeaway. I had not really thought about it in those terms before. And this does not apply to all service companies, but for the most part, if your product is being the service is somewhat commoditized, right? And there's not that much innovation that you can bring. Think about all the innovation energy our product companies put towards product. And think if we carved out half that mind share of creativity, fresh thinking, innovation, knowing that it's required to survive on our distribution or our comp or our channel or the way we sell, like that could be pretty huge, because we've always been known for innovation in the channel, but 99% of that energy is on product. So I think it's a super good insight, Brett. And I think product companies could learn a lot from it.
Yeah. Blake, what are you seeing?
That fact definitely jumped out to me, right, as it did with all of us. I think, as with all data, context and details matter. And I don't know the next level of facts offhand, but I think if we unpack the service sector, we're going to find that the majority of those numbers are really the real estate and the financial services companies. And we all know there's huge, giant, well-respected, cranking, amazing, inspiring brands. But me coming from like the field, Wayne, like it's a unique animal. I mean, you're talking licensed professionals that go through education and accredited process that is far different than signing up for $49 or free, right, to be a distributor on a product company. So I just think context matters when we're looking at this data, and it's deeper than just like product or service. When you look at all of that, because those are not that all direct selling isn't a profession. I don't want to elude that. We have professionals across all brands, all companies, all categories, but like it's a different level in those two categories. Now they belong in our channel. It's still the same. We welcome the perspective, but I don't think it's an apples to apples comparison. In the data, just at the headline sake. And then like I've been on both sides of the fence. So 25 years in the industry, first 5 years as a distributor, I was service-based. So I built in the field service-based, but last 20 years I've been product-based. And I think I agree with everything Heather said. The barrier of entry in product innovation has gone so low today than what it used to be with contract manufacturing, spinning up websites on Shopify. Like a founder with an idea can be up and running in no time. So there's a product proliferation for sure. And I think that is part of it, increased competition, opportunity, and product. And maybe one other insight, I'm kind of thinking my own path, because I immediately jumped, I'm on the product side. And I'm like, well, actually, we have technology too, and service-based too. And I think a lot of the brands are maybe moving into this maybe more hybrid offer where, product tangible might be a lead, but there's a lot of digital, there's a lot of service, there's a lot of support that's also combining in all sectors. And, maybe that's kind of a future. I wrote that note down of like, well, I don't think it's one or the other. Is there a way to play in both? So those were kind of my thoughts.
Yeah, I think that's a really great insight. Yes, there's definitely lots of nuance, I think, in the data, but I like how you were looking at the commonalities across companies. And even if we go back even more, I mean, all of our transactions are digital. Like we are all e-commerce companies in a large sense, and in our respective states, some of the largest e-commerce companies. I know that's true for Utah, where I live now, and I know we're going to get into that in just a second. Moving on to one of the other highlights from Stuart that really kind of, I don't want to say shocked me, but it was amazing, and I just was not aware of, that has huge strategic implications for all of our companies. And that was, Stuart stated that the primary language of people who purchase from direct selling in the Americas, so that's all the Americas, none of the other markets, it's primarily Spanish and Portuguese. It's not English. And I think this is a really exciting and important trend for us. Can you share how or what companies need to be doing to really support and grow this community and kind of take advantage of the growth within the Hispanic and Latino markets?
I can jump in. That was an aha moment for me, just the information alone. And then the other part, the shameful part of the aha for me was, well, of course it is. There's a lot more Spanish speaking countries in the Americas than English speaking, right? So why have my foolish American mind not thought in those terms before, right? But I haven't. And I think I represent a lot of people in the room too. Probably it was an aha for them too. But in terms of working with companies, I've had several clients who this time last year, Hispanic marketing was a big theme of DSU. It certainly was a part of this one. And they've been looking into it. And I think they go two directions. I've seen some companies say, great, let's go. That's a market. Let's go chase it. And like any good marketer would say, you have to ask yourself, well, do we have a right as a brand, as a company to market to this audience, whatever the audience is? And so I think some companies do that well and some companies don't. And then others, I think, sometimes do the opposite and they really overthink it. And in their efforts to be very careful and methodical, they just keep punting the decision down the road. And they're never going to get around to it. And it's based on that stat alone. It cannot be ignored. It doesn't mean that you have to pursue it full out, but is a fact that cannot be ignored. A company must make a conscious decision of what they're going to do about the Hispanic market, the Latin market, and does that sound like a fit for them, and what does that look like for them? So I think that's at least a place to start.
Yeah, and it needs to go far beyond our approaches of the past, where it was, hey, we're just going to translate. We need to support these markets, these communities, to really make them grow. If we don't put the investment in, if we don't put the support in, we're not going to be able to take advantage of some of these key trends and really help grow and support these markets. But Blake, go ahead.
I don't have deep experience here. Prove it. We operate in Mexico. We're expanding to other Latin countries. We support the Spanish language. AI tools have made our ability to do that a lot simpler and more effective and efficient. But I'm not one of the companies, leaders, or brands that's ever built like a giant business or huge momentum in that sector. There are companies that are doing that phenomenally well. They would give more insight. My experience share might be I have had that size of experience in Europe. And the only connection there is the awareness of different countries have different cultures. And it's not just translation, right? Sure. You have to meet cultures and communities where they're at. It has to be a real focus and a real intention. It's not just a flag on a website or a translation or an AI avatar. That stuff can help for sure, but you really do need someone that is bridging the company mission, vision, values into that local community and culture. And that person can be HQ. It can be a great corporate person that's connected on both sides, or it can be a field leader. I've seen great, amazing field leaders that can take and localize and, culturize and create massive movements. But there does have to be someone bridging all of that to the local level, in my experience.
I think it's really two conversations, right? Brett, your observation is not lost that when we say, the majority is Spanish speaking of all the countries, well, that actually makes a whole lot of sense. I'm on one hand, I'm not sure why we're so surprised, right? But I think it's two different conversations. It's, are you going to grow through market expansion in whether you're in those countries and in those markets that are outside of the United States or not? And that's one conversation. And then the other, where everybody sort of chases this shiny holy grail of an object, is growing and developing the Hispanic market within the United States or Canada, or sort of, primarily English speaking country. And what I'm really pleased to start to see is, again, this sort of holistic approach to that. Used to be everybody'd hire somebody that spoke Spanish and was of whatever descent you were looking for. And then they had this sort of separate department that was usually under-resourced, usually underreported, usually fundamentally criticized when we didn't get traction, right? So then they go to another company to try to do it there. And everybody's chasing that high. That's just not the approach that works. And I think there's millions of examples, maybe not millions, but lots that doesn't work. And so it has to be a C-suite global company initiative that really is part of the fiber. And I would challenge, Brett, I think your first question is right. Just because there's numbers there and just because there's growth out there, I don't know that every brand has the right to play in that market and can position. And the last thing, and we see a lot of it, is companies who think they do or try to or want to, and then we're just sort of pandering and doing it all wrong, and then sort of making it way, 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 way worse. I think each company has to look for themselves, but certainly market expansion and global expansion, coming into a country, getting a local team, building with local leaders, that's by far the most effective to get a piece of that market in your P&L. Brett.
Well, and just thinking of it, I've never thought of this before, but how many companies, like just looking at North America or US only, excel in both the Spanish speaking and the English speaking market? That's a much smaller list. And it's because it goes back to who are you as a brand? So there are brands based in the US who do really well in the Hispanic market. They don't do well in the English market. So for whatever reason, it goes the other way. So I think it's an interesting brand exercise.
And I just give a challenge to companies who are looking at it. Like, the takeaway, if this had not been on your radar as a high potential market for you, your company, the makeup of your field, your product line, I personally would not have that be the big takeaway from DSU going, oh, must expand to the Hispanic market. Like, you really be thoughtful about it is all.
Yeah, I agree. Really great points. Significant opportunity there, needs to be done right, needs to be done authentically. And yeah, a lot to consider in what you all said. I was taking great notes. Some really great points there. So Blake, you mentioned AI. So now that's going to shift us into the AI conversation. Once again, you gave an incredible masterclass where, people's jaws were literally on the floor, watching you present, seeing where AI is going, how it's going to be impacting all of our businesses, for good and some challenges that it brings. But one thing I heard from so many companies, they know it's coming fast. They know that it's going to be impacting their businesses, but they don't know exactly where they should be at right now, like in the kind of life cycle of AI growth. Where do you feel companies should be at, and where maybe the first areas they should be looking to really incorporate this significantly into their businesses?
Well, the real Blake is out surfing right now at the beach. So AI Blake, your avatar, is going to answer the question on behalf of him. No, this is the real Blake. I wish we were there. Wayne, I want to get to that point. It was great. Thanks again to everybody that tuned into the workshop after a long day. It was humbling to see the full room. And I'm glad that it resonated and it's helping. And for those that haven't been in those workshops or haven't heard the story, like, I'm just a student. I was sitting in a DSN, right? It's crazy, Wayne. This is 18 months ago. I mean, it's nuts, right? Where ChatGPT became online, and I hadn't logged in yet. And I had that first dose experience that, oh my God, the world has changed, and kind of fell deep down the rabbit hole. So I'm on the side of, like, really everything has changed. I'm actually still blown away that not everybody realizes that, on all levels, not just in our channel or business, but just in life. They will, and I think we're going to get there sooner rather than later. So I don't think the question is like, what can I use AI for? I think we're past that. I think the question really is, like some of the things Heather and Brett have been saying, what's the strategy? What's the right strategy for you as a brand? What are the things that you need to be doing more of that you're not? What are the things, right, that are working, right, that you want to continue? One of the stuff on the long list of things you want to do and haven't got to because of bandwidth and resources, like, I think it starts with a strategy conversation. And then the question becomes, well, what AI tools can I find and empower my corporate team and field team with to accelerate what the strategy is? And I say that very literally because there is a tool for everything. It's not a, what do I use AI for? It's no, what's the strategy? And I guarantee you there are tools right now that you can find super affordably, like next to nothing, that will amplify and accelerate, right, your ability to go after those goals. So I think it starts with that question. And obviously in the workshop, we gave like a whole litany of tools. I've gone through thousands of them, and I just kind of distilled down like what I thought are the most useful, like in the direct selling channel at a leadership level, executive level, distributor level, personal efficiency level, and stuff I use in my life every day to make it fun and more efficient. And I think DSN is going to release for partners the recording. We got a lot of requests for that, and this one was fully recorded. And feel free, use it for your internal team, use it for whoever you want to share it with. It's a resource DSN's putting out. Last thing I'll say, this is my shift, Wayne. Can I share kind of my great epiphany from the workshop? This might be the first time in my 25 years in this industry where I actually experienced an industry-specific technology that leapfrogged the mainstream tech. I've never seen this. So like, we are historic candor here. We are.
That doesn't happen. That doesn't happen around here. What are you talking about?
So far behind, like world's way out here, and then like we're in the dark ages for what we're. No offense to all our awesome, amazing technology supplier vendors. So on Friday, I shared this in the workshop. So like, there's a bunch of mainstream tools that can and should be used to apply for what we're doing. The change this workshop versus 6 months ago is now there's supplier vendors, many of which were on site at DSN, that have mobilized specific to our channel. So they're taking these AI and they're tailoring them to specifically our use case as companies and distributors. And I had this experience where literally right before, because I was prepping for the AI workshop and I was reviewing one of these supplier vendors, because I never want to share something unless I've done like deep dive diligence, used it, asked around. Right. And one of the vendors like told me like that they could do a real life generative avatar. And like, I've seen tools where you could do an avatar that looks and talks like you, matches your voice, but it's all static. You got to put something in. It's got to generate. It takes minutes to render. It's not real. So I'm like, it's not possible. I mean, I know all the stuff. I'm like, it's not possible. And I tested them because I just wanted to see purely if what they were saying was truth. So I dropped them on a Friday afternoon, a Dropbox full of like files and things to learn. 24 hours, Wayne, they came back with a real-time generative AI Blake that looked like me, sounded like me, knew all the knowledge base that I dropped in the folder, no fine-tuning, no feedback. Obviously, it can get better. But I was like, oh my gosh, this is the first time I've ever seen a direct selling technology that actually is ahead of everything, at least I'm aware of in the mainstream space.
Yeah. And on that tool, one of the things that stood out to me most was, I know a lot of times we're thinking or speaking about AI as it relates to companies and corporate. And I did tee up the question kind of that way. Yep. But watching that, the way that distributors and distributor leaders can leverage that to train their downlines in multiple countries, multiple languages, to stay on top, to take so much of the maybe the mundane and the day-to-day off, and have these really unique experiences that are unique to their teams and, and their organizations. I thought that was really incredible. Another kind of side anecdote, Blake, I watched your presentation from backstage, and there was so much video and AI and technology in there that I heard the production company saying that the file size of your presentation was more than some of the entire conventions that they have run. So congratulations. I think that's another
I can only hear myself talk for so long, and Stuart's like, you got a 2-hour workshop. I'm like, I'm going to bring in Zuckerberg and Oprah and Sam Altman. But hopefully it was a heavy video base, but hopefully it just distilled down all the conversation in the world today in a short form segment and provided some perspective, but it was fun. Thank you, video team.
Yeah, no, it was such an incredible presentation. I learned so much. Another thing that I know you talk about a lot, Blake, you mentioned it being a tool. And I love that you said, to empower employees, not to replace employees. And another thing that I found really impactful and really inspiring in the CEO forum, we were talking about this and how, especially customer service, is going to start being impacted really, really quickly. And David Schmidt, the founder and CEO of LifeWave, said something really, really cool. He said that they're being very open and transparent with people that they're bringing into customer service right now. They understand that their jobs are going to be impacted in the next 12, 18 months. And instead of just saying, oh, these people are going to be replaced, as AI becomes, used a lot heavier, that they're going to transition those employees. They're not getting rid of those employees. They're transitioning to them more outbound efforts, more personalized efforts, higher tier efforts. And I thought that was such a cool way to approach it. Heather, sorry, maybe I stole your thunder.
No, not at all. I'll actually build on it because I was going to quote him. It was actually a different piece of what he was doing. And Well, I'm not as cool as Blake. We all knew that going in. Don't need to say it
None
out
of us
loud.
are, Heather. None of us are.
None of us are. And while I'm fascinated and I love all the avatar, all that, I get super, super practical. And so what I like to see are companies that are driving that use of AI productivity tools down within their organizations. And one of the things David said is he does a weekly ask of his team of just to report every week, what is one thing that you tried using AI for this week, and tell us about it. Did it work or not work? You know, I've been in with some clients and we've been really working on just like, frankly, down in quality departments, right? Super silly example. A quality employee down within an organization had to find all the common ingredients across a portfolio of products, about 100 products. And they're like, I haven't built the spreadsheet yet. I haven't done this. I'm like, no, let's pull it up, dumped them all into ad, and in 8 seconds, right? With about 15 cut and paste. And it was like, you have 47 common ingredients. And these are like little things like that, which I know is not a sexy example at all. Very, very nerdy, but it saved about a day's worth of work that person could then go use
incredible.
their insights, their skills, their analytical ability on other things. So I love the examples of the super on the ground, like, what are you doing to free up your time? And I think David's really trying to create that culture at LifeWave, and it's just an encouragement for everybody. I thought it was great, a great insight.
It's exciting to watch and see. And Blake, thank you for the last,
Amazing.
3 or 4 DSUs to help all of us learn and evolve quickly as possible on this.
And for everybody listening, I'm gonna piggyback what Heather just said. Please let us know what you're using, right? How you're applying, what you're using, what's working. Like, we're all learning together in this space and collaborating. So yes, please take all the tools, apply them, create the safe space like David did. Tell your team, go play, right? And empower. I love how he gave the commitment that nobody's going to be displaced in his company, right? It's about empowerment. He gave the team security. He's empowering them to use and report back, like to promote playing. Let's all take a page off that and share what works and grow together.
And Blake, can I just compliment your learning style and the way that you openly share about that? I think it's really inspiring for people who are maybe a little nervous about technology. You're not coming from a deep experienced AI expert that you've spent your whole life. Like, you looked at it and went, wow, this is kind of cool. What could be done? And I think everybody can relate to that. And so I just want to thank you for sort of giving that example, because I think people would, if asked right now, everybody'd say, oh, who's the AI expert of the channel? It's Blake, which is fascinating given, 18 months ago, you were like, what is ChatGPT? Okay, let's figure this out. Super inspiring. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you, Blake. And I'm excited for the recording of your workshop to get out there to everybody. So be on the lookout on dsn.com.
If you missed any part of our recent events or just want to revisit some of the speakers and topics, replays are accessible in the DSU On Demand library. The library is an exclusive resource for DSN supporter companies, one of the many benefits designed to help keep you and your teams engaged, informed, and one step ahead. If you work at a supporter company, simply log in using your unique company code to access this event's content, plus over 350 presentations from previous educational events. If you're interested in becoming a DSN supporter, you can contact us at support@directsellingnews.com. The first ever DSU LATAM event, located at the Intercontinental Hotel in Doral, Florida, January 8th and 9th, is open to all active corporate direct selling executives and event sponsors. This landmark DSU event spotlights the companies and executives leading the charge in Latin American markets. Hear from some of the channel's top leaders who are thriving in Latin America today and gain key insights and guidance on best practices to expand into new LATAM markets. Registration is now open. Visit dsnevents.com today. And we hope to see everyone at our most talked about event of the year. The annual DSN Global Celebration and DSU Spring are coming March 25th through 27th at the Irving Convention Center in Irving, Texas. Registration details coming soon.
So I want to shift to compliance and regulatory. Brett, you led an incredible workshop there, one of the highest rated workshops. Normally by the title, you wouldn't guess that.
Right.
But with all of the pressures and issues that are facing the channel and the companies today, I mean, people were literally riveted, taking pages and pages of notes. Do you mind touching on what do you think are some of the most important issues that are facing our companies in direct selling from a compliance, from a regulatory issue, and what do we need to be doing better in that arena?
first off, this was the first ever legal and compliance workshop that DSU has done. And so that in and of itself, I think was a great step forward and very well attended. The topics were Chevron ruling, the Chevron deference, and kind of what that means. And we had Mary Kay sharing, what they were doing about it. And by the way, most people know this, and I know DSN, I think, had a great article on it. The answer to that question is, it shouldn't prompt you to do anything different necessarily right now. It's just good that it's happened. And then non-compete, non-solicitation, that was a very hefty discussion, especially on the side of, what do we do in an affiliate world and a gig world about non-compete? But then also, how do we change the idea of non-solicitation? And we heard some great ideas from Manatech, Prove It, or in LaCour. And so great insights there. And I think that's something that every company probably needs to take a look at. And one of the key takeaways from that was every company probably needs to get a third-party expert to take a look at their policies, just because if you're in-house, you probably aren't up to speed enough on what's going on out there. It's probably time to let somebody take a look at it on that front. We had one of the coolest parts was people sharing, hey, this is where we're getting wrangled into class action lawsuits and what's happening. And they shared a ton there. And so that was good to be aware of. And also, how do you update your policies and your agreements to make sure when and if that happens, you're in a good position to take that on, or how I can go about it. And then the best part was at the end, we had a gotcha panel. I mean, we just opened it up to these, these experts, third-party legal experts in direct selling, and said, what's going on that no one's aware of, but even caught you by surprise? And it's everything from, mass text messages going out and what that could mean for you at the corporate level, even if it's coming from your field, which is kind of scary, all the way to how we need to update our policies and procedures, all the way to auto ship, and how we need to go about that, and how that needs to be easy to unsubscribe from, and what that looks like, and our definition of easy, and actually what they might think is easy or different. So, there was a ton to it. I think the biggest thing was, though, there are so many people, like the whole room was not lawyers and compliance people. That was encouraging. I would bet a third of it was sales and marketing people, because compliance isn't just a compliance thing, right? It's a company thing. And you're starting to see more and more companies who are taking that on.
Yeah, absolutely. It is something that we all need to be aware of. It's continually changing. And I'm glad you were there again. Rave reviews from everybody. And thank you for leading that effort. You talked about, go ahead.
I told the group, I said, I know nothing about this, so all I can do is ask questions, and hopefully that gets us there. So they definitely, they took the load. They did a great job.
No, absolutely. And to Blake's point, there was a lot of candor there. And I love that it's people sharing, the wins, the losses, the stubbed toes, because we know that what's good for one of us, especially from a compliance and regulatory standpoint, is going to be good for all of us. So we really have to work together on all of that to make sure that we're rising all the ships there. But you mentioned making some changes to policies and procedures, and that kind of leads me into a really interesting comment that Heather made in the CEO forum around compensation. And I know a lot of companies take a lot of pride in, hey, our compensation plans have never changed in 50 years. A lot of things are shifting now and forcing us to adjust our comp plans. But Heather, you mentioned that we should always be making a tweak. We should always be changing to condition the field, to condition our leaders, and to make that whole change process not as painful as it could be. Can you share the importance of that, and also some of the key kind of changes in compensation plans that you're seeing that are making an impact?
Yeah, and I think it's also condition ourselves, right? To sort of not be as afraid of comp plan changes as we have historically been as an entity. And I'm not, in no way should anybody hear this as me minimizing the impact of comp, and that we can take these sort of changes cavalierly or without thought or without analysis. That's not at all what I'm saying. I'm saying that the world around us, the environment in which we're operating, is changing so rapidly. It's foolish of us to think that the way we pay people should be stagnant for any period of time, right? And so the encouragement that we're giving companies is to find the core pieces in your plan that you know you want to remain fairly consistent, right? And by the way, when I say change regularly, I'm not saying, oh, we're going to be binary next month, and now we're going to go to generational, and now we're doing year
Right.
level, and now we're not going to pay on 6 generations, and now we are. Like, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying find your base, but then the number of things that historically we might have even thought of as promotions or incentives or year-long programs. Think about those elements of comp that you can move to something that does change with more frequency. It will get the whole sort of thing less taboo for everybody. Your fields will get more comfortable with it. They'll recognize the world does not come crashing down on you when you make a change. And the biggest thing, and I think we've all alluded to the big challenges that we've seen some major players in our industry have, and their ultimate draconian change was we were going to just fundamentally change out of this whole plan. Well, if that could have been prevented with a series of small changes and adjustments that we make to get ourselves so we don't get in that spot. Generally speaking, we know where we're overpaying in our plan. And if you don't get somebody who can help see where you're overpaying, spoiler alert, everybody is overpaying somewhere, right? There's no perfect plan. So find out where those are and really come in and look at making those changes. Take the opportunity to simplify things. Get rid of the jargon. Where can you substitute cash bonuses for percentages, right? Next generations don't want to do math. 6% of nothing sounds like nothing, right? They can't conceptualize that 6% of 10,000 is something meaningful. Much rather be do this, get a $300 bonus, do this, get a $500 bonus, do this, get a $1,000 bonus, right? So that's what I'm saying is just sort of start to create, don't be so scared of comp plan change. They don't need to be these massive things. Look at elements, start that culture of innovation, start the culture and be transparent about why.
Yeah, I love that. I'm going to shift. I know, we've got a little bit of a hard stop for some of us today, but I want to touch on a couple other things. So one, affiliate and influencer. Again, this was one of the areas where there was a lot of candor, as I kind of mentioned before. It's been a really hot topic, a big push for so many of our companies. How do we, attract influencers? How do we attract affiliates and support them? And the results so far have been not what we had hoped. So Brett, do you mind talking a little bit about why has this been a little bit of maybe a whiff for us in direct selling? And is there a way, should we even be kind of going after the affiliate and influencer markets?
Yeah, I'll answer the second question first. I think the answer to that should be yes, to a certain degree. I think it would be silly to not address it, just like it would be silly to not somehow, some way address the Hispanic market or whatever that is. And I also think we've had instances of sluggish results and what's gone out there. That doesn't mean that it won't work. It means that someone's still trying to figure out the best way to go about it. One of my favorite presentations was Amanda Tress from Faster Way to Fat Loss and all that she shared. And we don't have time to go into all those details, but I thought that was a roadmap. And what was interesting, and she talked about this backstage, is it doesn't have to do with the compensation plan. It has to do with the marketing and the what she called the micro commitment funnels and how you equip people to go do that. And I think that's where we're missing. That's one example. I think we're launching into an area that we think is just our first cousin. And so we should know enough about it. And we ought to be able to show up to the family reunion and everyone say, hey, we've been waiting on you. And that's not it at all. We're showing up and we're a distant fourth cousin. And they're like, who are you? And you don't even talk like me. And maybe you're at the wrong place, and we are also setting up people internally for failure when we ask them to do something that they've never done before. Mm-hmm. And at the same time, it's obviously setting the program up for failure when we do that. So I don't think that it's necessarily wrong. I think we can learn from everything that's been done. I actually think there's been a lot of good things that have been done, but it's been coupled then with some execution challenges. And so I'm still hopeful for it. But at the same time, I think we also recognize people are starting to recognize, hey, we aren't exactly the same. I just hope people and companies don't give up on it completely. I hope the pendulum doesn't swing. It's swung to one extreme. I hope we don't go all the way back to the other.
Yeah, I think the heart of that is that we have equated in the last 18 months, 24 months, when it's been such a topic, affiliate with comp. Like that it's this narrow, and it's not, right? And a lot of companies that we saw, they said, I've rolled out an affiliate program. It really just changed the front end of their comp and called it affiliate, right? Affiliate is it is a different breed. It's that ecosystem that we talked about. comp is one piece, but probably not even the most important piece. It's one piece. And so I do think your encouragement to have everybody learn from what's been done is great. I really think a mistake is to be like, see, told you, affiliate's not going to work. I knew
Yeah.
it wasn't ever going to work anyway. We're multi-level always, all the time. It's all about team building. That's just not the world today. And so I hope people listening are like, okay, what did we learn? Glad we weren't one of the bold ones who tried it. What can we learn from that? And now let me go out and try something different. And it's about creating that environment. And Blake, you were talking about that in CEO Forum.
Yeah, I start to get fidgety in this conversation because, and Heather, you and I might even had dialogue on this. Wayne, we have a language problem, even in the conversation we're having right now, and the way this is being interpreted by everybody that hears this, because we're using the same word, and in all of our minds, it means different things. And that's a huge problem, right? It's like everybody's using the word affiliate, and in one person's mind, that might be, like Heather said, compensation. In another person's mind, that might be just the name they gave their normal distributorship.
Right.
Nothing else changed. In another person's mind, right, that might be, oh my God, are you talking about, I won't name companies, but like company A, B, C, and now D as of this week, that just revamped their whole model and launched press releases all over the internet of how they're going to affiliate, right? And now that's going to create PTSD and horror in distributor communities across the community. So like we have and then you talk to the true affiliates. Then you go talk. I have friends that are actually from the affiliate, the true OG affiliate world of what it used to mean over the last 10 years. They're like, what are you guys even talking about in this? So like we have a disconnect on what we're even talking about, right? So I think that's the bigger issue. I agree with everything, Heather, and she's a lot closer to the comp because she gets the perspective of all the companies and all the clients and where we're going. Yes. So if we're talking about, has there been a shift of effort to income expectation? Yes. Gig economy changed what someone expects for hour of work, hour of wage. True affiliate, not our affiliate, true affiliate changed, right? The expectation of I sell something, I get something. So if we're talking about compensation, there's lessons to be learned. If we're talking about tools, simple checkout, easy commerce, share links, things to social selling, sure, there's things to be learned there, right? But if we're talking about, let's go explode our entire community marketing model, call it affiliate, which is now what the emerging definition is across distributor communities in our channel, right? I think anybody in normal affiliate would look at us cross-eyed as a channel and going, what are you guys talking about? I can't name one affiliate model that got past 100 million in revenue and stayed there. Not one. They all hit a cap because they don't have the power of leadership, community, and glue that our channel has historically brought, right? And they're looking at us like, what are you guys, you're walking away from the thing that separates you at the time community matters most. And there's never been a company in history, I'm speaking my definition, if there is one, that's ever got past 100 million. And you're going to run away from that? Like we're seeing companies do. And I think future is going to tell the story based on those brands and where their revenue goes. So sorry to get heated up, but we're talking about different conversations and using the same word, and it's going to be misunderstood and misinterpreted.
I agree with that, Blake. Do you think there's still a need, though, to address the time for money, change the effort required to get sale? We have to give the good value, but drastically reduce the effort required in our businesses. Do you agree with that?
1,000%. Yeah, no,
still huge.
And thanks for clarifying, others. I don't want to be miscommunicated. 1,000%. That's why I'm saying you got to separate what we're talking. Throw the word out.
Yeah.
I fully agree. There's a shift in effort to income. You can't deny that. Like for 90 years, direct selling was the OG side gig. I remember being in my early 20s, quoting Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant, being, you want to start a business, you can come up with your own, buy a franchise or do direct sales, because we were the only side gig. So our comp was the standard. Gig economy changed it. True affiliate, right? Non-direct selling changed it. So I agree 1,000%. Let's learn from that. It is a shift. New age tools, easy checkout. Wayne, you've been on this one forever, right? Yeah. With your background in D2C. Yes, we need to adopt and learn all of that. Run away from, in my opinion, community marketing, leadership building people who build people, and getting rid of incentives to go to like a 1 tier or 2 tier only I think will prove to be a very big lesson, right? When you're seeing people making these steps. So don't misunderstand me, because you guys at Prove It, we did launch an affiliate layer earlier this year. That affiliate layer has a change in an effort to income. We use the language, right? We're improving our tools. We got a long way to go on our tool, but we're improving our tools, right? So all those things, yes, but it's not what I think, Wayne, some people might misunderstand when they're thinking the word and changing an entire business model. We're doing that in addition to empowering entrepreneurs, people, building communities, and the power of what we do, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point with this effort to income and the gig economy, I love that you brought up kind of our own .com processes. We've got to change that. We've got to simplify. Back to what Heather said earlier, one-click purchase, one-click enrollment. We've got to get as close to there, especially with how people are sharing products in today's world.
And I know we're on time,
Yeah.
but Wayne, really quick, I just want to make sure we have 2 seconds to at least talk about. I thought your talk on performance marketing and developing the muscle of performance marketing in companies, which is not a muscle that we have. It's not an expertise we have. I thought that was really, really spot on, and that was my really big takeaway. Would you mind just giving 2 seconds on that? Because I think it's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you. We're used to brand marketing. We're used to field marketing. We haven't been great at performance marketing, which is focused on acquisition and conversion. So whether it's from a product or somebody enrolling, and we're seeing signs that some of the direct selling companies are starting to move into this. Again, it's not about taking anything away from our distributors. It's just ways we can partner with them more to increase the lifetime value of their organizations, of their customers. And so we just have amazing ways now that we can partner more closely with our distributors to drive revenue, to drive enrollment. And I think we're going to be seeing a lot of shifts over the next 24 months, especially I think it's really analogous to what happened with Amazon. It was that third rail that we weren't allowed to touch.
Right.
And Blake did an amazing job. Blake was one of the pioneers in the industry of really kind of jumping in on Amazon and other marketplaces. And I think it's important to note, so many purchases now are shifting from brand websites, any brand, any channel, to marketplaces. And so it's such an important part of the product journey that we need to have a presence there, that it really is about protecting the brand, protecting the price point, protecting our distributors' businesses. And so for us in direct selling, it's a little different than it is in other companies. And the performance marketing extends to Amazon, where it's not just about revenue generation. That's amazing. I would love as much revenue as I could get at a company. But for us, I think primarily it is about protecting the business and protecting our distributors' businesses. So I want to thank Blake and Heather for being here. Thank you, Brett. And thank you to Stuart and team for putting on another incredible DSU. I'm looking forward to the next one in 6 months. And everybody go check out the highlights on dsn.com.
Thank you,
Love
Wayne.
it. Thank you, Wayne, for all you do. Thanks, you guys.
Thanks.
Thank you for tuning in. Please take a moment to subscribe and give a 5-star rating and review to help Direct Approach continue to provide more candid insights and interviews for direct selling corporate executives. And don't forget to register for the first ever DSU LATAM event at dsnevents.com. Secure your spot now. Thank you for listening and supporting DSN and the Direct Approach podcast.